Hello, Luzi.
Hi,
Welcome.
darling.
It's great to. I'm excited for the chat that we're going to have, my love. Um, would you like to introduce yourself?
Absolutely. I would love to. Thank you for having me. So my name is Luzi. I'm a somatic sexologist, sexological bodyworker, and sex coach. And I facilitate retreats, events. I do online courses, and everything is around, really the embodiment of our erotic energy. And I support people in becoming sexually more confident, inviting more pleasure into their lives, and tackling any issues they might have in relation to connecting to their bodies or their sexual energy. And my passion and the niche that I've kind of inhabited is self-pleasure, which we're going to be talking about in more detail another time. But sexological bodywork as such is a modality that works with the body. That's not necessarily including touch, but can include touch. And it's a way of really letting the body, the soma, with all of its emotions and experiences and stories and memories speak.
Thank you. And yes, it's such powerful work, which I've been lucky enough to have an insight into by living with you and having a bit of starting the journey a little bit before that, working with the sex and relationship coach, which is similar but different work to less specifically around sexological bodywork, which we will speak about more today. How does someone start to work with you in this way? It's like, what would be the inquiry for that person to be guided towards finding sexological bodywork to help them on their seeking or healing journey?
I feel like there's an intuitive knowing. There's a moment where I feel in development, especially for people who are into personal development, who are into kind of exploring different modalities, where the subject of sexuality for many is one that kind of comes later down the line when already other things have been done and explored. And then there's a moment where there's a knowing of, oh yeah, this is the next thing I got to lean into, because I can feel that there's stuff. So I often have people come and approach me without necessarily like a clear intention, but just like a knowing, like I know I've got stuff around my sexuality, and that's often got to do with shame, that's often got to do with perhaps a lack of pleasure, maybe an inability to orgasm is often the kind of, I want to be able to orgasm more. And then you go into the layers, and obviously it's not really about the orgasm. It's about trust. It's about surrender. It's about boundaries. It's about consent. It's about being able to even feel the body and know what it desires, know what it wants, and being able to communicate that. So there may be something that is a clear inquiry, but there's often also just a sense of, wow, if I start looking at my sexuality and my relationship with my own body and my pleasure, it's really an inquiry that goes into all aspects of life. So I kind of support people in the sessions that I do one-on-one online coaching sessions to get a clearer idea of what their intention is for going into this work. And this type of work is really, it's a client-led approach, meaning that whatever you want to explore, you can bring to the session. And I kind of guide and support you, and I offer you tools with which we can explore that lead you towards the fulfillment of your intention. And then obviously in the, there's certain like events. I do temple nights as well, which are a bit more like of a group erotic and sensual exploration. Yeah, does that answer your question?
Totally. And a few things I picked out there was safety feels like the absolute crux of this. And it obviously, when you were talking about trust, it made me think about my own journey with this and thought, really creating that safety in your own body is fundamental. And that's what I've learned from this work entirely. With my own inquiry into sexology or having sex related therapy, I was definitely curious as to like how to be more orgasmic, with a partner, and then realizing that even though it's harder for that to occur for me, or not even just to have an orgasm, but like the build up of climax is so much harder with a partner. And it's like, that's not, that was my own journey with it, but realizing that it is totally about creating that safety in your body and just knowing your body. And then the next stage seems to be like communication. But yeah, shame stood out massively there as well. Inquiring into our own ideas of shame, our own bodies, our own like performance, all these things seem to be very laden in this conversation. And working with someone like yourself to be guided through this, like I was your guinea pig for your training with masturbation training, which maybe we'll talk about in our next one. But all I'll say on that in our next video, but all I'll say on that was how I noticed it felt so wonderful to be held on that journey. And it was like, that's a really interesting inquiry for me, actually, of like, why does it feel safer to be held with that guidance rather than like just going solo and exploring and experimenting and being playful? And these are like the open-ended questions that I still do think about regarding my journey with this stuff. So yeah, very, very magical stuff. And maybe this is where you can tell us a little bit more about actually what body work looks like maybe what the different types of body work are, and if certain parts of the body access different types of activation or release.
Yeah, so just going back to a couple of things that you said there around the motivation for perhaps starting to inquire a bit more about one's own sexuality, and the idea of like performing in a certain way in intimacy with another, the pressure to orgasm or the inability to orgasm, or maybe orgasming too quickly. I mean, obviously we're speaking about all types of people with all types of bodies. And I feel like this is what makes sexological bodywork so powerful, because it really takes this element of relating with another out of the equation, but it's really about you relating to your own body. And of course, working with a sexological body worker, well, the sessions are one-way touch. So the client doesn't touch the practitioner, but the practitioner touches the client. And yeah, it takes out a lot of the things that are very complex, and we relate with another of how does the other person feel? What do I have to give back to them in each moment? What's the interplay? And obviously knowing that there's just someone there in the practitioner role who offers the touch, which can be erotic touch, is an amazing way to actually explore one's pleasure with another without that kind of typical dynamic of I'm in a sexual encounter with someone where the exchange and the touch is mutual. So there's a lot of opportunity for experimenting and for inquiry of how does my body react, what fears do I maybe have. And obviously there's no yeah, there's no pressure to go anywhere in these sessions. They're just kind of like holding the magnifying glass and giving us an opportunity to go into the things that we want to explore in our bodies. And I feel that especially with this, you know, the idea of having a particular experience, whether that is, it needs to be very pleasurable. I need to have an erection. I need to be wet. I need to be having an orgasm, not having an orgasm, be able to have sex for a very long time, be able to get going really quickly, whatever it might be, all of these different experiences that we may project onto ourselves of this makes me a good lover. All of that can be stripped back, and actually what is true beneath all of that? How does my body actually want to express in this moment? And actually, maybe I don't want to have sex at all. Maybe I just want to be massaged, or maybe I want to move my body. Maybe there's something that needs to be communicated. Maybe I need to use my voice before even allowing touch on my body. So it gives this the space to inquire into one's own needs, desires, boundaries, without the interrelational element of, but I also want to make sure I stay in connection with the other person. I want to please them, and I want them to love me, whatever, you know, all of the things that may be underneath. And that facilitates a lot more choice, especially when we're in a bit of a, you know, a dance with a partner where, yeah, you know, maybe neither of the two is really, doesn't have the tools or isn't able to communicate what they want. There can be a lot of just falling into things and then going along with things that actually maybe no one really chose, but it's like, I think they want it and they think I want it, but actually no one really wants it. And so it really, doing this type of work really helps us kind of pull all of this apart and come back to, okay, in the very essence, in this moment, obviously you know, we are a living, breathing organism that changes every second. So also what I wanted a minute ago might not be what I want now. And so being able to track what's actually happening in my body, and surrendering to what the body wants, obviously in a way where I can communicate that, is super important, and it's a skill that I know for sure I didn't learn. And obviously the people who come to me, there are so many light bulbs moment around, like, I don't actually know what I want. I was just kind of, you know, expecting the other person to read my mind. But you know, having the ability to tap into one's own desires requires being able to stay present in the body. And this is the kind of you know, the practice of erotic embodiment is really this this ability to notice one's own sensations, to notice, to value, to trust, to communicate what's happening in my own body, rather than kind of bypassing, you know, an impulse, or a little like, oh, actually, I need to stop for a moment, or I can't feel right now what I want, so I'm going to take a moment and just breathe. Being able to ask for a pause, you know, in a moment of intimacy. All of these are skills which we haven't been taught. And then, yeah, obviously lots of us have been taught by pornography, where obviously it's like, how are we meant to know that bodies need time to be listened to? You know, we need to be in really good relationship with our bodies. And if we jump ahead without really having checked in with ourselves, that's where kind of boundary crossing and boundary violations happen. And then the body kind of contracts and tenses, and